It said that if nothing changes among African Americans, no, let me back up. But they didn't say that was another article. This one said that African American baby boomers will be the first generation of Africans in America to raise another generation of Africans in America that will not do better than them. So in the 400-year history of our people in this country, we are the only generation to raise another generation that will be worse off. We need our asses kicked. Our ancestors and forefathers must be rolling over in their grave.
All right.
You can count me out of that statistic. I will not participate, and you must not participate in that statistic. Understand that everything we do for our children, just as everything our parents did, they did for us. We cannot allow this to happen. Not on our watch. Further investigation, further studies, further statistics tell us that now that's not hype. I'm not exaggerating. The shots have been fired. The flares have been fired. So we can either listen and do something, or we can continue to party. Make Grammy-nominated rap songs. Buy our red bottoms. Gucci's and Ferragamos, and wear all this stuff.
Right.
Well, let's just see if white folks are right. Now that brings me to a crossroads that we had to engage in 1965. Daniel Patrick Moynihan, at the wish of Lyndon Johnson, President Lyndon Johnson, did a major report and study on the state of the black family. It was called the Moynihan report. Daniel Patrick Moynihan was a New York liberal, Harvard graduate. Did his work, published the report, and basically the report said the following. What he noticed through statistical gathering is that the out-of-wedlock birth rate among black families was 5 times that of white families in 1963 and 4, and ultimately published in 5. Out-of-wedlock births were at about 25% then, and in the white community, it was about 5%. We were 5 times higher. And Daniel Patrick Moynihan basically said in his own, northeasterner way, that brothers and sisters, this is what the statistics are, but the federal government cannot legislate your screwing.
You see, they say that once a man is beaten, twice he will shy. And also, they say that when a man is beaten by a snake, even if he sees a lizard, he'll be reminded of the snake and he'll be scared. So even a lizard to him appears to be a snake. This is a man who is cautious. This is a man who is who has developed the consciousness of fear, right? It follows that black Americans, as told by George Fraser, who is a black American educator, a professor, a doctor, a scholar, he confesses and he speaks that if black people don't really take good care, if they're not cautious, what might happen is that black Americans might land to the second slavery. That is what George Fraser is telling us. It should be scary because slavery in itself has really, really impacted the black people of America. The problems we see today happening to black people, the systemic injustices, the white supremacy which clouds black people's justice system, all these are as a result of slavery. But now he is warning us that if black people really don't take good care, slavery might as well return. He holds up a mirror to black America and asks, have we truly broken free? Or are we simply walking with open eyes back into a new form of enslavement, economic, cultural, and spiritual enslavement? His tone isn't that of a victim. It's that of a strategist, a teacher, a general rallying his people not for war, but for awakening. Now, this speech that we are going to watch and react on is not just an academic treatise. George Fraser is telling us that if we really don't take care as black people, we will go back into the system of enslavement. Yes. Now, in Africa, we call it neocolonialism, right? So without further ado, I want us to listen to George Fraser, get to understand what he tells us. By the end of the video, I shall get back and I shall share with you my thoughts, where we shall also have a deep, critical analysis. Let's dive in.
People ask me all the time, Dr. Fraser, what is the secret to staying married to the same sister for 45 years? And it's a one-word secret, amnesia. 45 years, Nora Jean's going to do something stupid, I'm going to do something stupid. We discuss the stupid things that we have done, Bishop. We reach middle ground, we bless it and release it, never to bring it up again. And we go about raising our family, loving our children, and serving our people. Till death do us part.
That's good.
That is the key to success in the black community. A strong black family. A strong black family. Now that is a whole another subject, which I will put a pin in, because we just don't have time to unpack that one. But it's huge. Now, all that needed to be said today has already been said. I got here at 8 o'clock this morning. I sat patiently and listened to 60, 70 brothers and sisters speak with brilliance, with intelligence, with calm, and collaboration. It was just a beautiful thing to see. And they covered everything that you could possibly want to cover. So A, I applaud you for that. Benzel. I know you often call yourself Denzel.
Everybody else wants it.
But you are thebomb.com. You really are. You are about and for black people. I love you for that. You are, in fact, a race man, as I am a race man. That we have committed our time, talent, and treasure to the investment and the upliftment of black people first. I didn't say only, but I said first. And I love you for that. So let me say this to you from my heart. If I could not be me, I would want to be you. You're a bad brother. I appreciate you and the people that you coalesced around a powerful vision for the future of black folk in Denver. Now, you are going to have obstacles. One of my favorite quotes is from Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius was one of the 5 great Caesars. And it was Marcus Aurelius who said that the impediment to action advances action. That what stands in the way becomes the way. Let me say that differently. Where there is no obstacle, there is no way. When God gives you an assignment, when you're ready, the next thing God does is places an obstacle in front of that assignment. And your job, your assignment is to get over, around, through, under the obstacle. And when you prove to God that you can do that, God checks off a box, gives you an attaboy or an attagirl, and then you get a new assignment. And as soon as he gives you a new assignment, an obstacle is put in your way. And your job at that moment in time is to find a way over, around, and through the obstacle. And for 400 years, Africans in America have found a way over, around, and through the obstacle. And when we look back on our lives, we understand that the obstacle for us is the way. We are an awesome and beautiful and powerful people. And we need to act like it.
All right.
And maybe the best thing that has happened to us, because God works in mysterious ways, maybe the best thing that has happened to black people is Donald Trump. That racist, narcissistic fool has demonstrated to us what he thinks of us and what so much of America thinks of us. Now, we have always suspected, we have always complained, we have always saber-rattled what we now know to be true. America elected Donald Trump. And we now know what so much and so many of America think about us.
That's right.
But we've had that suspicion with, we can almost say it ain't nothing new. But now it's been proven, Imam. It's been proven. So this is a good thing. This, I think, will motivate us to understand that we are in a state of urgency. We are in a state of emergency, if you will. Interesting article in the Wall Street Journal, I hope you saw it. Interesting. It said that financial illiteracy is an American problem. That's what the Wall Street Journal said. Financial illiteracy is an American problem. And demanded that America, both the public, private, and independent sector, invest billions of dollars in bringing America to financial literacy. That's the Wall Street Journal said in an editorial. Now we know that when white folks catch a cold, black people catch pneumonia. So if financial illiteracy is an American problem, it is 10 times the problem in our community.
All right.
We understand that. Therefore, it is time for us to put economic development and wealth creation, closing the income and wealth gap between blacks and whites in America. I did not say blacks and Hispanics. I did not say blacks and Asians. I did not say blacks and Arabs. I said blacks and white folk. That's what I said. Because that's where our issue is. It is time for us to close that gap. It is time for us to put economic development on the front burner. It is time for us to create a mantra and slogan around that idea. And that mantra and slogan, as I have been saying for the last 5 years, is that economics is the new black power. Economics must now become the new black power.
All right.
And this cannot be done without the cooperation, the investment, and the engagement of the most important, the most trusted institution in our culture, and that is the black church. They must touch it. And so we must devise a system that allows us morally and spiritually to fulfill Proverbs 13:22, that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. That is what the Bible tells us. Interesting article on the front page of USA Today, Bishop. Thank God it was below the fold, but it was on the front page. And here's in essence what the article said. It said that if nothing changes among African Americans, no, let me back up. But they didn't say, that was another article. This one said that African American baby boomers will be the first generation of Africans in America to raise another generation of Africans in America that will not do better than them. So in the 400-year history of our people in this country, we are the only generation to raise another generation that will be worse off. We need our asses kicked. Our ancestors and forefathers must be rolling over in their grave.
All right.
You can count me out of that statistic. I will not participate, and you must not participate in that statistic. Understand that everything we do for our children, just as everything our parents did, they did for us. We cannot allow this to happen. Not on our watch. Further investigation, further studies, further statistics tell us
Laugh.
Now that's not hype. I'm not exaggerating. The shots have been fired. The flares have been fired. So we can either listen and do something, or we can continue to party. Make Grammy-nominated rap songs. Buy our red bottoms. Gucci's and Ferragamos, and wear all this stuff.
Right.
Well, let's just see if white folks are right. Now that brings me to a crossroads that we had to engage in 1965. Daniel Patrick Moynihan, at the wish of Lyndon Johnson, President Lyndon Johnson, did a major report and study on the state of the black family. It was called the Moynihan Report. Daniel Patrick Moynihan was a New York liberal Harvard graduate. Did his work, published the report, and basically the report said the following. What he noticed through statistical gathering is that the out-of-wedlock birth rate among black families was 5 times that of white families in 1963 and 4, and ultimately published in 5. Out-of-wedlock births were at about 25% then, and in the white community, it was about 5%. We were 5 times higher. And Daniel Patrick Moynihan basically said in his own, northeasterner way, that brothers and sisters, this is what the statistics are, but the federal government cannot legislate your screwing. That's on you.
Oh my God.
We can't tell you when and who to screw. But here's what's happening as a result of what you're doing. Your rates are 5 times higher than our rates. And if that trend continues and you do nothing about it and you ignore it, within 20 to 40 years, your out-of-wedlock birth rate will get to the 60s and 70%. That will affect and effect the black family structure and ultimately lead you into poverty. Oh, the report was published and we were pissed. Racist Daniel Patrick Moynihan. And we did nothing. And what happened? Exactly what they reported. So, we don't have to listen to the statistics. We can just continue doing what we're doing. That's if you want to do that. I have chosen not to do that. Because although the prediction is that by 2053 this will occur to us, if you read the national coverage of the front page story in December of last year in the Boston Globe about black people and their money in Boston, it made national news. It's all on the national news, Bishop. Boston, one of the wealthiest cities in America. A home of America's most elite education, Harvard, MIT, Boston College, Bryn Mawr, Sarah Lawrence, Boston University. Here was the major headline in the Boston Globe. I read to you the headline. The headline was so egregious, even the headline had to qualify the end result. Here's the headline. This is no typo. The median net worth of black Bostonians really is $8. I said $8. One of the wealthiest cities in America. Black Bostonians are worth $8. Now, I thought the prediction in Fortune magazine is that we would be broke by 2053. Well, black Bostonians are about 20 years ahead of time. We don't have to do anything, but I'm recommending that we do something. I'm recommending that we tackle the problem, and I really see it. I talked about this earlier. I don't really see it as a problem because I'm an entrepreneurial thinker and have been all my life. I see it as a massive opportunity to provide education and training to 46 million black people. That's what I see. Massive. It is something that we're capable of doing ourselves. So, with that thought in mind, 3 years ago, I began thinking through what was the system that we needed to put in place to institutionalize financial education in the black community. Where must it first be housed and then expanded and extended to? And there's only one clear answer if you think clearly about this. It must take seed in the historically black church. There are 85,000 black churches in America. 25 million black people go to church every single Sunday. We are the most morally grounded, spiritually rooted people in this country. We are the most church-going people in this country. You cannot do anything of significance in black America without touching or it being led. Every major movement in this country, every major good thing that has ever happened to black people in this country was led by the black church, leadership from the black church. So it's got to start there. Now, there are 1,500 references to money and economics in the Bible. So this is no strange subject. We just need to bring the subject up more frequently. So we launched this year WINS. WINS. WINS is an acronym. Wealth in the name of our divine Son. We know who that is. I created a little piece of poetry under WINS, and it says, for it is the wind that makes us soar, and it is the winds that bring change. WINS. There will be financial literacy centers, wealth building centers. That's how we're branding them. Now, I have a little experience with branding. I spent 13 years in branding and marketing in leadership positions with Procter & Gamble. Now, anybody know anything about branding and marketing? They are the beasts of branding and marketing. They invented branding. I sat at the feet of the masters for 13 years. I was the guy that was partly responsible for the launch of Pampers, which disrupted the cloth diaper category 40 years ago. So I know a little bit on how to package, design, and do the brand architecture for something as powerful as a brand that needs to bring us to literacy. We introduced it last year at the PowerNetworking Conference. We said, here's what's coming. And we launched it this year at the PowerNetworking Conference. We recruited. Now, I did the prototype. I've had a WIN center in my church for the last 14 months. So I was sort of the test market. We're now doing what they call in the branding world a soft launch. So we've got 15 people around the country. We will will be meeting in October for the final Train the Trainer. Each person directing a WIN center must have some history in the financial services industry, and then they must get a CFEI, which is a certification in financial education instruction. You see, because you are a stockbroker doesn't mean that you can teach financial education. It is no different than basketball. Michael Jordan is the baddest basketball player to have ever played the game, but he would fire himself as the coach of a team that he won because he cannot coach. But Phil Jackson was a mediocre basketball player, and Phil Jackson has 11 rings, and 9 of them are for coaching. Because you can play basketball doesn't mean that you can teach basketball. Because you can read doesn't mean that you can teach reading. Because you can do math doesn't mean that you can teach math. You have to be certified. I have 2 African-centered charter schools, and you cannot teach basic reading in my charter schools without certification in reading. But why would we allow our people to teach our people something they're not certified in teaching? And this is especially true for black people because we learn differently. We are oral, visual, tactile, kinesthetic, and auditory. We're oral, visual, tactile. White folks that teach our inner city children can't teach them because they do not understand our learning and teaching style. We are an archival, we are an oral people. White folks are archival. They write, and they read. Let me say that differently. They write and they read that this world is still being run by books that were written 500 years ago. Don't you ever forget that. They take out of their brain, put it on paper, and publish it. Now, more of us are writing books than ever before. So we're moving in that direction. We've got to write it down because that's, in order to systemize something, you must be able to articulate it, put it in writing, and then make sure that there's a permanent record of it. That's what books are for. So there's nothing wrong with the oral tradition. It's a beautiful tradition. We see it every Sunday in the black church. That we are probably the best speakers in the world because we come from an oral tradition. President Barack Obama, I remember when he first got cleared, a good white friend who said to me, "Man, President Obama can really speak, Dr. Fraser." I said, and he said, "No, he's a great speaker, isn't he?" I said, "He's all right." I said, "Have you ever heard Freddie Haynes?"
Yes.
All right.
Have you ever heard of Gardner Taylor?
Yes, all right.
Ever heard of Howard Thurman? You ever heard Jeremiah Wright? You go, "Oh yeah, I heard Jeremiah Wright." Of course they heard Jeremiah Wright. So we have an oral tradition. We learn differently. We have to learn. So we have to teach our people differently about wealth building and educate them differently around literacy, and we have designed a curriculum, a special culturally specific curriculum using special tools and ideas to educate our people about money, to pull them away from the most important addiction that we have. One of the most important addiction, I say important, I don't really mean that. One of the worst, let me say that another way. We have a very badass habit. We really do. Now, I've been black for 73 years, and we have a badass habit. And this habit is the worst in us than anybody else in America. And you know what that habit is? Our habit or addiction to instant gratification versus delayed gratification. There's lots of socio-psychological reasons for it. I don't want to get into it, right? I can take up too much time telling you why that we need to feel good right now. Because for 350 years, we didn't feel so good. Right? For 350 years, we really couldn't party. right? For the last 50 years, maybe we could say, if we want to look at this metaphorically, we were just partying, we were just celebrating our fight for freedom. Basically, we are really just 2 generations out of oppression. I mean, the Civil Rights laws were enacted in 1965, the Voting Rights Act in 1967. We're just 2 generations out of oppression. Right? And the Jews did not get to the Promised Land after they were freed for how many years? 40. Right? They misbehaved and had to get their stuff together for 40 years. Well, you know, after 350 years of the crap that we went through, maybe we had to just do a little partying, you know, buy a little something, you know, look nice for a change, right? But now, you know, it's 40. The 40 years is over. The party is over, brothers and sisters. All right. So we now have to do the right thing. So we are opening the WIN Center. It is a system, as you've heard me say yesterday, that ideas are wonderful, but systems are better. We are the most creative people on the planet. We are. There's nobody more creative than black people. That is a special gift that God has given us. The moral and spiritual grounding gift and the gift of creativity. We invented jazz. Think about it. Jazz is 80% improvisation. Improvisation is creating an idea per second. If John Coltrane was alive and you invited him into this theater to play My Favorite Things, his classic, he would blow it out of the water. Only 10% of it you would recognize. It would, the melody, that's the only 10% you would recognize. The rest of it would be totally improvised. If he went home and you invited him back tomorrow to play the same song, it would sound entirely different. That's how creative, that's the power of our creativity. But we ain't that good at building systems. Probably the best system, Bishop, that we've ever built is the system of the black church. The second best would be our fraternities and sororities. That's a system. So we have to move from just wonderful creative ideas, you know, being great football, baseball, basketball players, right? We're the talent, but we don't own the system.
That's good.
We don't even own rap. Wow. We don't own rap. We create the music. You know, we do the singing, dancing, playing football, yeah, but we don't own the system. The system is a system to produce, to package, to manufacture, and to distribute. What is the distribution system for football? The stadiums. The media. So that's a different kind of thinking, and this is the kind of thinking that we must engage our people in the 21st century. Now, all of this will come under what we're going to be introducing, or launching, I should say, because we introduced it this year, Fraser Nation. Now, for 31 years, we have been Fraser Net. It is not an ego trip. There's only one reason we used Fraser. Because the brand has been around for 31 years, and it has trust and loyalty. And a fine reputation. Right? So in the branding world, so I learned this from Procter & Gamble, this is called brand extension. There was Ivory soap, and then we made Ivory liquid. And then we made Ivory flakes. And the reputation of Ivory soap gave the halo effect to the extension of that name and brand. This is the same science, brothers and sisters. Except you don't know it, and I do. Now, some of you may know. So, that's all it is. It's not an ego play. It is leveraging the reputation of your brand. Now, the theme for Fraser Nation is citizens of generational wealth. Citizens of generational wealth. That's the theme. Right. Under Fraser Net for 31 years, we had 3 words that described who we were and what we offered. At Fraser Net, connect, grow, and prosper. That was our unique selling proposition. That was our value-added benefit, is we enabled you to connect with each other, and through connections you would grow, and through growing you would prosper. That's 31 years. We're now morphing into something a little bit different, a little bit better, I think. And we will have 3 terms, not 3 words, that will define and describe Fraser Nation. And those terms will be demonstrated excellence. That's one term. That's the first term. Demonstrated excellence. I did not say excellence. Everybody says excellence. Everybody banties that word. No, 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 no. Not black people. We're taking that to another level. We're talking about demonstrate to us your excellence. I hear your mouth running and your lips moving. I know you talk in excellence. Prove it. Where must that excellence be? It must be a knowledge of self, a deeper commitment to personal growth and development, constant never-ending improvement, and lifelong learning. All of this will be synthesized under Fraser Nation as demonstrated excellence. Demonstrate to me that you got it going on.
That's right.
When you demonstrate to us that you have it going on, you can become a citizen of our nation. So our nation is not for everybody, just as America's not for everybody.
All right.
At least certainly according to Donald Trump. Don't be trying to get in our nation and bringing your babies up in here, and you ain't about nothing.
All right.
We may take your babies, right, and excommunicate you from our nation, and we'll figure out how to get you your babies back later. Okay. I went off on that. So demonstrated excellence is the first term. The second term is equity and investment. Equity and investment. Forbes Magazine comes out with a special edition once a year called the Forbes 400. It's the 400 richest people in the entire world. Do you know how 398 of those 400 richest people in the entire world made their wealth? Private equity. Private equity. There's an exception to that rule, and that's Warren Buffett, who made his money through public equity, buying 5, 10, 15 million shares of McDonald's or Nike. And Warren Buffett understood a long time ago that it's much more important to buy Nike stock than to buy a pair of $200 Nike sneakers. Warren Buffett doesn't wear Nike sneakers, but he knows you buys them. You buy them. Warren Buffett understood it's more important to buy McDonald's stock than to eat a Big Mac. Equity and investment. Equity and investment. That is the second term. If you're about that, we can lead you to equity plays. We have friends who are starting and building businesses, and let me just dimensionalize that for you. Had Mark Zuckerberg been your friend 25 years ago, and he was working in his room at Harvard trying to get Facebook started and asked you to loan him $5,000 or $10,000, that'd be worth about $25 million today. That's private equity. This is before the IPO. Do you understand what private equity is? It is before the IPO. Right? Then there's public equity. So, equity and investment. And then finally, the third term for Fraser Nation will be entrepreneurial thinking. Entrepreneurial thinking. I did not say entrepreneurship. We must work on the minds of black people.
Yes.
What is entrepreneurial thinking? Entrepreneurial thinking is taking responsibility, taking ownership, and mitigating the risks to all things that you do in life. And that mindset may lead you someday to a business. And we know that there's some Negroes that should not be within 100 yards of owning a business. Now, I don't know how long you've been black, but I've been black for 73 years. And we got some Negroes out there doing business. And there's a difference between a businessman and a businessman. And what we're trying to do with Fraser Nation is put the business people out of business. Because they're messing it up for those of us who are trying to do serious business. So, that's the next thing. And then to aggregate the brothers and sisters, the institutions and the organizations that demonstrate excellence on a regular basis, and to make them a part of this Fraser Nation, which will be a system. It is a system that will be institutionalized over a long period of time. It will be membership-based and chapter-based, and people heading up each state for the various chapters in that state, guess what they will be called? Governors. We have a nation. When you head up a state in America, what do you call them? A governor. So we will develop nomenclature that connotes dignity, respect, and power, and demonstrated responsibility and demonstrated excellence. That's where we're going. Finally, and I'm going to end on a couple of notes and then take questions and then roll up out of here. To return sooner rather than later. Right, Benzel?
Absolutely.
What, I have 3 minutes?
30.
Okay. Okay, so I want to leave. Now, is it 30 before we... We're going to leave there at 4:15. I just want to get the times right.
Yeah,
4:15.
So 3:45 is our stop with you at the...
Right. What time is it now?
It's 3:15.
3:15. Okay, good. All right, so I'm going to leave some time for questions, but I just want to leave you with one little tip. I have traveled the globe. I've met some of the most powerful and most important people to have lived. From Malcolm to Martin, Oprah, and Denzel. And what I've discovered in observing them and befriending them, they have one very, very simple little secret that they are able to act on that less than successful people are simply not able to do. What is that secret? They have the ability to remove toxic people and bloodsuckers from their life. People who drain you of your time, your energy, and your patience.
Wow. Wow.
Now, this is very easy to say, this is very difficult to do. Do you know why? Because most of these people are your family and friends. Strangling is not an option. This is why I believe that friends are critically important, because it's God's way of apologizing for your errors. You can pick your friends, but you can't pick your elders. There's an old saying, if you love something, set it free. If it comes back, it will always be yours. If it doesn't come back, it was never yours to begin with. But there's a big but on that, brothers and sisters. If it sits in your living room, messes up all your stuff, eats all your food, uses your cell phone, takes your money, and doesn't appear to realize that you have set it free, you've either married it or you gave birth to it. You must be able to remove toxic people and bloodsuckers from your life. Introduce me to your 5 closest friends, and that will tell me who you are. As they know and as they go, you go. Business is about relationships. Without relationships, you have no business. Without relationships, you have no business being in business. In fact, the business you're really in is in the business of building relationships. So your relationships are everything. Everything. 15% of your success in life will be determined by your skills. But 85% of your success in life will be determined by your interpersonal and people skills, your ability to cultivate, nurture, and develop relationships at work, at home, and in the community. There are 3 networks you're going to have to work on for your entire life, through every passage of your life. If you're lucky, you'll get 8 passages. Each passage is about 10 years. Let me explain that to you. You're a different person at 10 years old than you were at 1. You're a different person at 20 than you were at 10. Let us pray. You're a different person at 30 than you were at 20. You're a different person at 40 than you were at 30, 50 than 40, 60 than 50, 70 than 60, 80 than 70. You're constantly evolving and changing, and people are platooning in and out of your life through every passage of your life. And if you don't have the good sense to understand who is with you and who is not, you're going down. You ain't getting where you're supposed to go. Smart people rarely hang around stupid people unless they're related to them. I'm just telling you. The less you associate with some people, the more your life will improve. And you better understand that. When God wants to get into your life, God will send a person. When the devil wants to get into your life, the devil will send a person. Your task in life is to determine which one is which and who has been sent by whom. Our enemies have been anointed to have us do those things that we would never consider doing. It is written in the 23rd Psalm. Read the 23rd Psalm. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of thy enemies. Now you better be able to discern that. Now, I don't know who I am talking to here this afternoon, but I am telling you there's somebody in your life that when, as soon as you humanly possibly can, you must bless them and release them. Or it's not going to happen for you. This is huge. I'll put a pin in that. We'll pick up on that in chapter 2, Benzel. And I hope and pray, by the way, that you help this brother do this work. Let me say that differently. Money is the mother's milk of all intentions. And without money, all you have is a good damn intention, but nothing will happen. You have a great start. This is an important initiative. This is for you and about you. Make sure that it has the mother's milk that it needs to take the next steps forward. You cannot have a baby and not give it its milk. So I ask for Benzel that you do everything you can, that you make a commitment to this idea, to your future, and you do it by putting your money where your mouth is. It's worth it. And it cannot be done without it. I love you for the work that you and Keith and your crew and your team and the folks that supported this. This is, we ain't doing this, what in the hell are we doing? So God bless you for that. I close with a prayer. There's a prayer that we use at the PowerNetworking Conference every year for 17 years. We call it our Ancestral Recognition Prayer. This is how we close the conference every year. I want you to do me a personal favor and take the hand of the person on the left and the person on the right. We are all connected. You do not have to stand on this particular prayer. May we always remember those who have gone before us. May we be inspired by their vision and their valor. May their lives continually remind us that service is more important than success, that people are more important than possessions, that principle is more important than power. May whatever we do be molded and shaped by honesty, excellence, and commitment. May our children and our children's children carry forth with pride the nobility of the histories that are represented here and the various traditions that are represented in this room. To the Creator of all of us, by whatever name we may refer to that Creator, we dedicate our lives to make our world better and more beautiful. Can I get an amen? Amen. Now I want you to repeat after me with enthusiasm, and I'm finished. I want you to say, success lives in Denver. Say that.
Success lives in Denver.
Because success lives where I live.
Because success lives where I live.
We must be willing to share our success.
We must be willing to share our success.
And to help others succeed.
And to help others succeed.
Each one must reach one. And teach one. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Now, after watching this video, here is my deep critical analysis. And by the way, the title that George Fraser was using in his video by saying second slavery, he has used it metaphorically. It is not a literal, it is not to be understood in the literal sense. Now, the first slavery, it was in chains, it was in whips, and it was in cotton. To understand what Fraser means by second slavery, we must first revisit the first slavery. For nearly 250 to 400 years ago, black people in America were treated not as human beings, but as property, bought, sold, and worked to death on plantation that enriched the early American economy. During this era, the control over the black body was absolute. It was invisible. The whip, the auction block, the iron dollar, these were tools of control that stripped dignity and erased identity. Families were separated. Language, religion, and cultures were suppressed. The aim was simple: total dependence on total subjugation on the slave masters. But as George Fraser reminds us, the Emancipation Proclamation did not fully emancipate. Instead, it transitioned black people from one form of labor extraction to another. We had sharecropping, convict leasing, Jim Crow segregation, and systemic marginalization. That was the first slavery. Now, the second slavery is speaking of, again, it's a metaphorical. It's to be understood in the metaphorical sense. Now, the second phase is this: the evolution of enslavement from plantation to the penitentiary. Right? George Fraser did not claim that black Americans are enslaved in the same way as their ancestors were. In this video, he's telling us in a more subtle way and a more dangerous. He tells us this: it is more subtle today and it is more dangerous. That slavery has evolved. It has become invisible. It wears a suit, signs legislation, builds shopping malls and school districts, and distributes food stamps, not whips, right? But its goal remains the same: to control the black mind, body, and economy. The first instance of second slavery is the economic slavery. George Fraser's most urgent concern is economic dependence. He argues that Many black Americans are financially free but economically enslaved. But what does that mean? It means living paycheck to paycheck, hand to mouth, right? Now, people of black origins are not free but economically enslaved, right? It means living paycheck to paycheck, consuming rather than producing. Black people have been made to be the consumers and not allowed to be in position of production, and depending on jobs owned by others, institutions funded by others, and products made by others. He points out that the black dollar leaves the black community with 6 hours compared to the 17 days in the Jewish community, or the 20 days in the Asian community. That statistic isn't just about money, it's power, ownership, and future. George Fraser warns that economic weaknesses leads to social powerlessness. Without land, business, and district, the black community remains vulnerable. As he puts it, if they control your paycheck, they control your future. The second is cultural enslavement. Fraser critiques the glorification of toxic culture in music, media, and fashion. The new slave master, George Fraser argues, doesn't wear a hood. It owns a record label. It profits from music that normalizes violence, disrespects to women, and glorifies fast money and street life. George Fraser doesn't just blame the artist alone. He targets the system that funds and promotes this culture, a system that understands if you control a person's value, you don't need chains to control their behavior. What is being stolen today isn't just cash, isn't just money, but meaning. The narrative of black identity itself is what is being stolen. The third one is the breakdown of the black family. Fraser speaks candidly about fatherlessness in the United States of America, broken homes, and the consequences of state dependency. He draws a direct line between the rise of government welfare and the erosion of family structures. Before welfare, he says, the black family was the strongest unit we had. Post-1960s, government aid was designed in a way that penalized marriages and rewarded absentee fathers. While the intent may have been support, the result was disintegration. He is not just lamenting moral decay. He is pointing out a structure that incentivizes weaknesses and punishes stability. That is George Fraser and what he means by the second slavery. Now the fourth one is psychology of enslavement, minds in chains. Perhaps the most powerful part of George Fraser's speech is the appeal he made to the psychology of black America. He says that secondary slavery is primarily mental. It's intellectual. A person who have internalized inferiority will sabotage their own progress. They will resent success, fear leadership, mock intelligence, and avoid responsibility. In a nutshell, they will do the slave master's work without being asked. They'll be automated like scripts in a computer. Fraser speaks to the learned helplessness that manifests when a person have been told, directly and indirectly, that they cannot thrive without handouts, help, or pity. He challenges this narrative. We are the descendants of survivors, kings, inventors, and builders. How dare we act as if we are the victims? Blacks ain't the victim. No, we ain't. Maybe someone else is. In this sense, the battle is not just external. It is internal. It is fought in classrooms, households, and in front of mirrors. The fifth phase is this. What are the solutions to this problem? From awareness that they exist, to solutions to make them work, and to action to execute the proper planning to decolonize the black mindset from the second slavery. Fraser doesn't just leave us in despair. While his critique is blistering, his vision is restorative. He calls for a return to, first, entrepreneurship. He encourages black ownership in sectors of all economy. The second is financial literacy, understanding wealth, investment, and the power of money. The third is family unity, restoring the black home as the foundation of cultural power. The fourth is cultural excellence, rejecting harmful media portrayals and celebrating black brilliance. Then the fifth one is self-determination, depending not only on politicians or programs, but on community and cooperation. George Fraser emphasizes education, not just academic, but cultural education, knowing our history, our value, and our potential as black people. He quotes Marcus Garvey in the video you heard. He also quotes Malcolm X, and also he quotes Dr. Claude Anderson. I did a video about him a while back then. A lot of whom, these people, are stressed the same truth that he is stressing. If black people do not control their own destiny, someone else will, right? So some of you might say, oh, it's an old video, it's something which is not relevant, bring us something new. These problems that George Fraser is talking about, Marcus Garvey spoke about them, Malcolm X spoke about them, Dr. Anderson speaks about them, still exist to date, right? Now, what is the relevance to this speech that was made by, George Fraser? Fraser's speech, though it could have been delivered in 1965 or 85, feels even more urgent today. It's 2025, June. Right? It's 2025 June. Black Americans face challenges, both old and new. The first one is AI and automation, which are eliminating jobs for black people at a rapid pace. What does this mean for black people? The second is gentrification, which is pushing black families out of urban centers they once called homes. The third one is mass incarceration of blacks, which continues to devastate lives. Black men still make up a disproportionate share of the prison population in the United States of America. The fourth one is media control, which remains in the hand of those who do not share the community's values or priorities. In this environment, Fraser's warning is not hyperbole, it is a diagnosis. You know, it is easier to dismiss what George Fraser is saying, right? His tone, even though is very direct, his message is uncomfortable to so many. But great leaders have never been measured by comfort. They are measured by truth. The truth is this: without intentional transformation, economically, culturally, and psychologically, Black Americans risk becoming dependent in new ways, controlled by forces more sophisticated than overseers or plantation owners. The question is not whether secondary slavery is coming or not. The question is this: are we willing to stop what is happening now? Fraser's speech ultimately is a call not to fear, but for freedom. The true freedom. Not symbolic liberation, but structural empowerment. Not just a seat at the table, but ownership of the table itself. As we consider his words, we must ask ourselves, what chains have we accepted as normal? What patterns have we mistaken for culture? What enemies have we allowed to enter our minds, our homes, and our communities? Until we answer those questions, we ain't free, George Fraser tells us. Now, remember the book or the speech is called Black People Are Heading to Secondary Slavery, and it is not a prophecy he was making, nor is it a doom, no. It is a map back to dignity. It honors the past, critiques the present, and calls forth a better future. If we ignore what George Fraser is telling us, we may repeat the cycle. If we hear him, we may finally truly be free. There's something I always say. There's something I always say many times. Do not repeat history. Learn history. If we learn history, we won't repeat it, but we will do it right. Yes. This is EFK Original Documentaries. If you like what I do, kindly subscribe. I'll surely appreciate for your support. Support me on Patreon, become a member. You can donate something by the end of the month to help your boy bring more videos to you. Times are catching up. Technology is improving. I also need to up my game. So with your support, we can get there. This is EFK Original Documentaries. Subscribe and see you in the next one.